Picking up from where we left off in the Holy Quran, Circle 7, Divinely Prepared by Noble Drew Ali. We're on chapter 32, Holy Instructions from the Prophet dealing with charity. Happy is the man who hath sown in his breast the seeds of benevolence. The produce thereof shall be charity and love. From the fountain of his heart shall rise rivers of goodness, and the stream shall overflow for the benefit of mankind. He assisteth the poor in their trouble. He rejoiceth in furthering the prosperity of all men. He censureth not his neighbor. He believeth not the tales of envy or malevolence, neither repeateth he their slanders. He forgiveth the injuries of men. He wipeth them from his remembrance. Revenge and malice have no place in his heart. For evil he returneth not evil. He hath not even his enemies, but requiteth their injustice with a friendly abomination. The griefs and anxieties of men excite his passion. The griefs and anxieties of men excite his compassion. He endeavoreth to alleviate the weight of their misfortunes, and the pleasure of success rewardeth his labor. He calmeth the fury. He healeth the quarrels of angry men, and preventeth the mischiefs of strife and animosity. He promoteth in his neighborhood peace and goodwill, and his name is repeated with praise and benedictions. So you see this is a short chapter on charity. I would like to hear some feedback from anybody what stood out in this short piece. Then I'll give my thoughts.
Oh yeah, I like to say something. Can y'all hear me? Because I'm in the car.
Yeah, it's fine.
Oh yeah, so I do DoorDash on the side, and I was doing some DoorDash today. And I live in like a area where there's like a lot of homeless people. It's like and there's crime over there too, and they do like drugs like on this alleyway. But when I was delivering today, I saw this organization. It's like right over there. Its name is called Hopics, and it looked like it was new too, like a new building. So I was surprised that it was over there, and they told me that they are helping the people experiencing homelessness over there. So I was happy to see that because I used to service the homeless. I used to work for a nonprofit. Like I work for a lot of nonprofit organizations. That's where like most of my work experience is in. So I'm definitely charitable. So I like that chapter, and I like that because LA got like $500 million for the homeless out here, and this organization LASA, they like scamming the money, So I was happy to see that they built a new building there, and they're trying to solve the issue because the homeless issue out here is crazy.
Right. Yeah, man. Yeah, that's that's something that got to be in our hearts, to try to alleviate, even though we can't save the world, but we can do the best we can. At least be wired like that. What stood out for me was the produce, the production of the seeds. Because remember, a seed is not always a seed. It starts out a seed, then blossoms. So the seeds of benevolence in the breast are in the chest, right? Produces their charity and love. So it starts whatever your heart, what vibration is your heart on? You got a cold heart, warm heart. The warm heart, the product is going to be charity and love. Right. So that stood out for me. Of course, line number 3, he assisteth the poor in their trouble, right? And he rejoiceth in the furthering the prosperity of all men. You know, where my mind goes with that is, you know, you want to see your fellow brother, sister do good. You know, you should rejoice when you hear good news. You know, no envy and hate. You know. Anybody else?
Yeah. Oh, go
Um,
ahead, Empress.
okay, thank you. Number 5, he forgiveth the injuries of men. He wipeth them from his remembrance, and revenge and malice have no place in his heart. I'm pretty sure everybody has in the past or, had that experience where they want to, get back at somebody. I had a situation kind of where I felt like I needed to or wanted to do something, to get revenge from someone who did something to me. But it was crazy because the person didn't answer the phone. So it was kind of one of those moments where it was like, it gave me the opportunity to kind of think and stop about and think about what I was doing. You know what I mean? So that really stood out moving forward, just knowing yourself that, revenge and malice shouldn't be in your heart. So that was really good.
Islam. Anybody else?
Yeah, I wanted to say like the first and second verse is kind of like it's tying in like the Hermetic principles too, because like happy is the man that's sown in his breast the seeds of benevolence. So it's kind of like, as within, so without. So like if you charitable, and that's in your heart, that's gonna correspond to you as well, like throughout your like, you might, and it's not about receiving stuff, but it's, it's just good to have that like genuine love in your heart, because you're gonna receive genuine love on the back end as well, like because you it's in you, so you gonna receive it outward as well, if that makes sense.
Right. Your inner feelings will reflect, or people on the outside of you could see your vibe, basically. You know what I mean?
Definitely.
Whatever's on your mind, it's going to be a certain vibe that you're going to give off, or people that are not inside your body going to feel it. Like, you know what I mean? So, I feel you on that. That has as within, so without, principle of the Hermetic principles for sure, man. Yeah, that's a good analysis right there.
Yeah, that was dope.
Yep. All right. So let's transition to some Noble Jew Ali assessment. To be proclaimed in every meeting. Islam. I am glad to know that I have a few faithful Moors among you. All and I desire for them to know the truth and the divine truth. There is a host of jealousy about me in the movement now by the same people of our side of the nation that claim it was only a joke and unreal. But now, since they have found out from the government officials and the nations of the earth that this is the only sole foundation that all Asiatics must depend on for their earthly salvation as an American citizen, they are working every scheme that they can to disqualify me. So they themselves may take charge of the situation. These are the words of Noble Joe Ali in January 18th, 1929. As we know, during that time, FBI, CIA agents was everywhere, and he was letting the upright, independent Moors at that time cautious. That still stands today, because you have Moors that are continuing the energy that we brought, and then you have people that are not. Cause confusion. So that still applies. All right. So addressing misunderstandings of purpose concerning the Prophet Noble Jew Ali by Taj Tariq Bey. I have always found it troubling to see and recognize that many sincere or seriously interested natural persons have displayed an air of delusionment, confusion, or misunderstanding concerning the direction and purpose of the Moorish Divine and National Movement. It must be emphasized to all people who receive Moorish culture class instruction that Noble Jew Ali was a universal prophet. Because Noble Jew Ali is a universal prophet, public airing of his literature and message is directed to the people of North America at large, and not just to the fallen Moors, his people. The Prophet Noble Jew Ali made a firm and compelling plea to the nation and presented to us the specific grand principles of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Upon making this historically famous plea, the Prophet addressed the people, qualifying their loyalty. This is the specific order in which the Prophet clearly addressed three specific bodies of the people who make up the citizenry and or body politic of North America. 1, all loyal and faithful Moors. 2, members, nationality card holding members of the temples. And 3, American citizens. Warning. Remember that the Prophet directed his call to the above mentioned peoples in the public arena. Look at the order or sequence in which those he addressed is placed. Do not allow anyone to try to convince you or your children or offspring that he, the Prophet, did not address the above said peoples. Let no one without a challenge try to imply in any way that any of the above stated persons have no right to possess the Prophet's literature or writings, that they cannot or should not talk about, analyze, or discuss those things which our Prophet brought us. If anyone has any doubt to the correctness of what I just said, then go to the Prophet's own words, which are written in his Moorish literature booklet under the editorial, A Divine Warning for the Prophet for the Nations. It is upon this document that the Moors Order of the Round Table bases its origin and purpose. This is why I have set about the task of producing literature to counter the subversives among us. It is not personal. It is for the nations and the Moorish Divine National Movement. The social, spiritual, and political proper person, concepts, and proper conduct initiatives which the Prophet encouraged the people to act upon must be made common public information and should be readily available in every public library and on display in any of the various bookstores. However, history and the records show that a few subversive persons deceitfully presented themselves as honorable and sincere members within the Moorish temples, and thereby successfully gained positions of authority and power within the Moorish movement. Some of these traitorous, disingenuous, and selfish persons set about their work in intent of slowing down or neutralizing the Moorish Divine National Movement. Upon analyzing Moorish literature and information, the oral and written words of many honorable sheiks and sheikesses, the limited records made available by the Federal Bureau of Investigation, or FBI, a pattern of negative intent and actions can be easily discerned and recognized. The following are a few of those recognizable acts or actions, which are derivative of the above said patterns of negative intent. 1, any and all attempts made of neutralizing the Prophet Noble Jew Ali by way of suppression of the exposure of his pleas, messages, and literature, as it was all directed to all loyal, faithful Moors and to the people at large. The artificially injected divisions and schisms presently existed among Moorish Holy Temples of Science, the Moorish Science Temple of America, and the Moorish Divine National Movement and all its manifest branch institutions. The false claim that Moors do not vote in the national elections qualified and in their proper person status. The false claim that Moors are not to be civically active. The false claim that Moors are not to study and or act upon the national constitution of and for the governance of the United States and for governance of the United States Republic, North America, which was prepared for all free national beings. The false claim that Moors are not part of this said government, i.e., the United States Republic of North America. The lack of refined instruction on and about the social and political effects concerning the truth about the theft of and the suppression of the Moorish nationality and birthright issues, etc. The lack of recorded documents and accountability to the Moors concerning the collection of, the accountability to the people for, and the proper dispensation and spending of the people's finances. The lack of study, analysis, and truth about the legal and or lawful implications concerning the alterations of words of a document, or the deletion of words in or from any established constitution or lawful or legal document. Note should be taken that the Divine Constitution document of the Moorish Holy Temple of Science, as presented to the Moors from Noble Ali, our prophet, was altered by someone within the movement. When Noble Ali was in this midst of institutional pressure and violations from persons within the movement. Take note of an important and often overlooked alteration which was made at least 3 times within the Divine Constitution document, which alters its meaning and purpose. So when we were at, I think it was either Temple 80 or 84, Saturday, and we were reading the Divine Bylaws, that Sheikah had a copy of the Divine Bylaws, and it was sitting there out of reading Acts 6. And it said part and parcel, distinguished from part and parcel. The original Divine Constitution of the Moorish Holy Temple of Science states the legal term part and parcel. The altered Divine Constitution of the Moorish Science Temple of America reads part and parcel. So the things that are that needs to be highlighted, part and parcel is a law term dealing with, if you ever heard parcels of land, we're dealing with land, right? So when Noble Ali is saying we're part and parcel, we're part of the land based on inheritance. We're the true heirs of the land, not partial. We're not partially part of the land. We're actually part of the land. Do you hear Moors analyzing or discussing the circumstances upon which these obviously serious yet unaddressed changes were made? Noble Ali commanded the Moors to study, study, study. Cannot the Moorish Americans read? Why has no one of importance to the Moorish movement pointed out this flaw to the Moorish national citizenry? Why has no correction been made? Who is protecting the prophet in the Moorish movement? Will the honorable Moors please stand up? The issues relative to the undermining works instituted against Moorish American progress in North America and initiated by or through the subversives amongst the Moors are not limited to the foregoing. However, I feel the above are well worth mentioning for the purpose of warning those who become conscious of their Moorish nationality and birthright issues. Many new conscious Moors may inadvertently find themselves amongst unwelcoming, exploitive, opportunistic, or cliquish Moors. Be aware that such are not the programs as presented by the Prophet, nor is such the mission of the Moorish movement. The above also applies to the Europeans among us who may oftentimes pretend not to know the true and illustrious connection and influence of Moors to the founding of this great republic and of the constitutionality undermining subversives on their side of the nation. All parties must confess, support, enforce, and uplift our free national constitution and declare one free national name. Remember that the name America applies to two major continents, an isthmus, and the adjoining islands. What is your nationality? Upon recognizing that critical misunderstanding about varied and yet vital issues involving Moorish American history, law, and government existed and exists also among many conscious Moorish Americans, I feel the need and obligation to at least address the same to the best of my knowledge and ability. I also recognize that this includes members of my own direct nationalized family. This is why I have prepared a few Moorish children's lesson books for my daughters, my sons, my nieces, and my nephews to share some of those studies with you, trusting to do some good. If one would wonder or desire to have a clearer understanding or focused and purpose of, and for their own actions and purpose of involvement and connection to the Moorish Divine National Movement, then I would advise the following. Thoroughly read, analyze, and etymologically study in word and in law Prophet Noble Drew Ali's divine warning by the prophets for the nations. The prophet makes plea to nation and Moorish leaders' historical message to America, etc. Therein, unerringly, you will be informed of the Moorish mission, instructed and directed of, and to the true purpose of the mission, and given a solid foundation upon which to base your studies, your actions, your dedication, and your associations. With a clearer understanding that the Moorish movement in North America is the great legacy left to us by our prophet, you will recognize that the movement belongs to we, the people. With a solid background knowledge of the above stated literature, your acts, your obligations, and connections to your Moorish Divine National Movement will be firm and unshakable. And to this great humanitarian cause, honorable Moors pledge their allegiance, peace, prosperity, and progress. There are many institutions, movements, and organizations that came directly out of or are under the universal umbrella of the Moorish Divine National Movement. Many have studied Noble Drew Ali's words and works and teachings and have applied them well. Many have not. Some people came to the Moorish movement to help. Others came to the Moorish movement to profit off the suffering of the people and to cause divisions and problems. Some were agents of the enemies to cause of the upliftment of uplifting the people, and others were trying to undermine Noble Drew Ali's efforts to raise the economic, social, spiritual, and political conditions of the Moors. Noble Drew Ali said, the half has not been told. If I told you everything, you would go back to sleep. Study yourselves. By reason of progressive development and by reason of countering the stagnation and sellout natured corruption that has always plagued the Moorish Divine and National Movement, many studied Moors developed expanded informational approaches to facilitate solving the many negative problems facing the nation. There were in the past, as are in the present, positive and progressive Moors dedicated to the cause of uplifting fallen humanity. There are many people, however, who sought out positions of power and authority for the purpose of deliberately hiding and nullifying the national political application side of the Moorish movement. Without government structure and civil activity, the proper benefits of the reclamation of the Moorish nationality can never be realized for the lack of true economic security. Right? So the more to declaring your nationality, got to work with the people, and the people got to build. That's the whole point, to have security. This is why those who opposed Noble Drew Ali's universal Moorish movement usually feign ignorance to the civics nature of the Moorish movement, or condemn those who are working to protect the unalienable political rights of all Moorish Americans, etc. If one studies the universal principles of government, national and international, one can quickly surmise who and where opposition and deception against the people's rights exist. Keep in mind that the freeing of a people from usurpation, color of law, false history, tyrannical religious dogma, brand, appellatives, etc., also directly and indirectly affects the profits and political power of those who have benefited from the status quo conditioning. The Moorish nationality issue is a threat to slaveholders and their Negro-bred overseers alike. Be aware and study the positive and negative history of the Moorish divine and national movement, so as to enable oneself to recognize those who would seize upon the ignorance of the people. Such persons will often misuse the presentment of government activities without teaching the contractual nature of the same. Some misrepresentation serves the intent for selfish gain, whether finance or other forms of benefit of power, as well-rounded knowledge of civics, law, and history will quickly expose any and all leech-natured opportunists and traitors to the cause and principles of uplifting the fallen Moors and humanity at large. Where there is just government, there is accountability to the governed. Look for constitutions, covenants, treaties, bylaws, etc., among other things. If they are absent, look for fraud and theft. This is a list of some of the many active Moorish institutions and or organizations formed, which much can be learned. They're all over the country. Seek them out and research in your own course of travel and study. So Taj listed about 11 civic organizations that were honorable at this time. I'm not sure when they updated this website. Note, in Moorish culture, you are encouraged to read, research, and study as a normal state of custom, duty, and general affairs. You have a responsibility to self and to your nation to feed the mind and dispel ignorance. So we're saying with Moors, we have a duty to study. We have a duty to get wiser so we can make other people wiser. That's our duty. For your review, reading and study, 3 important writings by Noble Drew Ali. If one would wonder or desire to have a clearer knowledge, if one would wonder or desire to have a clearer knowledge, understanding of focus and purpose about the Moorish divine and national movement in North America, then study the words of the prophet and founder of the Moorish movement. It is therefore presented and subscribed in the best interest of the people to read these documents for themselves instead of being preoccupied with non-productive and unfounded opinions or debates. So we're gonna transition to the literature of the prophet, Moorish leaders' historical message to America. In connection with the aims, objections, rules, and regulations of the Moorish Science Temple of America, I deem it proper to submit to you a brief statement of our organization, covering its inception, rise, and progress, and of the Mohammedan religion, which I hope will be satisfactory to you and be the means of causing you at all times to adhere to the principles of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice in your relations with mankind in general. I further most anxiously hope this brief statement will help you more clearly to see the duty and wisdom of all time, upholding those fundamental principles which are desired for our civilization, for our prosperity, such as obedience to law, respect and loyalty to government, tolerance, and unity. Obedience to law, respect, loyalty to government, tolerance, and unity. You're saying you're a Moor, that's what you're about. Unity, tolerance, loyalty to government, obedience to law. We organized as the Moorish Temple of Science in the year 1925 and were legally incorporated as a civics organization under the laws of the state of Illinois on November 29th, 1926. The name Moorish Temple of Science was changed to the Moorish Science Temple of America, May 1928, in accordance with the legal requirements of the Secretary of State of Illinois. The object of our organization is to help in the great program of uplifting fallen humanity and teach those things necessary to make our members better citizens. The national organization, with a Rotarian complexion as it relates to branch temples, became obvious with the increasing number of inquiries from men and women in different sections of the country concerning the purpose of the organization. There are branch temples in 15 different states at this time. So remember, this is the prophet talking at this time, in the 20s. Since the work of the Moorish Science Temple of America was largely religious, the organization has been legally changed to a religious corporation, and an affidavit to this effect has been properly filed in Cook County Recorder's Office of Illinois. Inspired by the lofty teachings of the Quran, we have it as the revealed word of God Allah. We shall foster the principles of its teachings among our members. This is our religious privilege as American citizens under the First Amendment, under the laws of one of the greatest documents of all time, the American Constitution. The Mohammedan religion is the least appreciated and probably the most misunderstood of the world's great religions. This is especially true in our Western world. Try to understand what Mohammedanism stands for, and some of the things that it has contributed to the world. Muhammad was the founder of the Mohammedan religion. It originated 13 centuries ago on Arabian Peninsula, where the streams of commerce and culture met and mingled in the Middle Ages, where the markets of exchange were stationed for treasures of India or Hindustan and the products of the Mediterranean coast. There, this religion was established in the unprecedented short period of 20 years, and alike, many of the religions without the aid of any royal patronage and support. Buddhism had its Ashoka, Judaism had its Joshua, Christianity its Constantine, but Mohammedanism had no person of royal rank and power to assist in its establishment and spread. Today, this religion is acknowledged by nearly 250 million souls and extended over an area equal to 1/3 of the globe. From Arabia, it spread eastward over Persia, Turkestan, Afghanistan, westward across Syria, Asia Minor, Turkey, southward to Africa, covering more than half of that continent. It found its way to India and beyond, to the islands of Sumatra, Java, and Borneo. To the early representatives of this faith, the world's debt is incalculably great, for it was they who transmitted the treasures of Greek literature from the Middle Ages to the Renaissance. They who originated the graceful forms of which the Taj Mahal and the Alhambra are the most famous examples. It was they who contributed to the sciences of algebra and chemistry, astronomy and medicine. They who dotted the Saracen Empire with the universities and who built at Baghdad and Cairo the most renowned universities of the world. During those centuries of ecclesiastical despotism, when the Christian church suppressed all the intellectual activities, save those that were theological, causing the talent that reproduces to supplant the generation that creates. Mohammedanism, or Mohammedans, did all in their power to encourage and stimulate research in every branch of human inquiry. The Moors or Mohammedans added to the beauty and grandeur of Spain. For centuries, art, science, literature, and chivalry flourished among them, while the rest of Europe was still in the gloom of the Dark Ages. The Moors were the most ingenious and industrious of the subjects of Spain. Their expulsion from Spain in 1610 was one of the chief causes of decadence of that country, for both agriculture and industry fell into decay after their departure. Mohammedanism makes no distinction between high and low, rich and poor. It is like the sky. It has room for all. Right? The Quran would be of interest to all readers. It is the Bible of the Mohammedans, ruling over the customs and actions of over 200 million of people. It is a work of importance, whether considered from a religious, philosophical, or literary viewpoint. In the promotion of plans for the betterment of mankind, there has ever been some kind of opposition. And strange as it may seem, such opposition has come from sources where there were no ideas, or the lack of courage to force attention to the ideas. Whether in church, state, or social community, any attempt to do anything out of the usual way seldom fails to receive criticism. Not because the course cannot be pursued legally or that is it unreasonable, but because it has been considered in terms as new. The Moorish Science Temple of America has received some opposition and criticism. The main opposition has come from certain Christian ministers. They have expressed themselves as being opposed to our propagation of the Mohammedan religion, possibly because the promotion of the Mohammedan faith among our people in the United States is considered by them in terms as something new. Whatever the reasons may be for their opposition, the legal right to oppose citizens, individuals, and organizations alike for their religious belief does not exist in the United States. The door of religious freedom made by the American Constitution swings open to all, First Amendment, and people may enter through it and worship as they desire. Without religious freedom, no search for truth would be possible. Without religious freedom, no discovery of truth would be useful. Without religious freedom, religious progress will be checked, and we would no longer march forward toward the nobler life which the future holds for the races of men. Without religious freedom, there will be no inspiration to lift our heads and gaze with fearlessness into the vast beyond, seeking hope eternal. It is a sad weakness in us, after all, to oppose our fellow men for their religious beliefs. And if there are angels who record the sorrows of men as well as their sins, they certainly know how many and deep are the useless sorrows that spring forth from such opposition. Possibly love and time will counsel our ancient hatreds in this regard and prove that in mankind, tolerance is better than unwarranted opposition. Right? We just read tolerance in the Quran. We must have tolerance. In connection with our religious aims and beliefs, we must promote economic security. The preaching of economic security amongst us is by no means as widespread and intensive as the circumstances demand. No other one thing is more needed among us at this time than greater economic power, better positions for our men and women, more business employment for our boys and girls. Bigger incomes will follow our economic security. We shall be secure in nothing until we have economic power. A beggar people cannot develop the highest in them, nor can they attain to a genuine enjoyment of the spiritualities of life. Our men, women, and children should be taught to believe in the capacity of our group to succeed in business, in spite of the trials and failures of some of them. Trials and failures in business are no means connected to any particular group of people. Some business ventures of all people fail. We have many men and women among our people who are qualified, both by training and experience, who are shining lights in the business world of all the people. It is a sad weakness in us as a people that we have withheld the very encouragement, support, and patronage that would have made some of our worthy business ventures a grand success. And worst of all, have joined in the condemnations of them when they failed, except in cases of actual dishonesty, discourtesy, lack of service, and actual unreliability. Our business enterprises in every field of endeavor or attempt should have fullest of confidence, cooperation, and patronage whenever and whenever they can be given. So essentially, when the Moors, whatever state body they're a part of, they start getting into business moves, 10 toes down. Not all this being skeptical. Oh, it's not gonna work. Oh man, nah. We come up with something, we put it out, we're gonna feel good about it. We're gonna push it. It's gonna work. That's the mentality. Read carefully the doctrines of the Moorish Science Temple of America. It contains our hopes, aims, rules, and articles of religion. Every member should have a copy. In conclusion, I urge you to remember there is work enough for all to do in helping to build a better world. The problems of life are largely social and economic. In a profound sense, they are moral and spiritual. Have lofty conceptions of your duties to your country and fellow men in general, and especially those with whom you deal. This includes such honesty and righteousness as will cause you to put yourself in the other fellow's place. Look for the best in others and give them the best that is in you. Have a deeper appreciation for womanhood. Brighten the hopes of our youth in order that their courage be increased to dare to do wondrous things. Adhere to all times. Adhere at all times to the principles of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. I am your affectionate leader. I shall continue to labor day and night, both in public and private, for your good, thereby contributing to the welfare of our country and its people as a whole. So that was the words of Noble Drew Ali. I'd like to open the floor for some thoughts. Anything that stood out? Go ahead and turn this recording off.